Welcome to the Donnie B Show on the MAGA Locally platform. Today we have a special guest, Cathy Jo Loy. She is running for House of Representatives, District 163. Welcome, Cathy. I'm so happy that you could join us today. I'm excited that you're running. I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with you a couple times.
Oops, you're frozen
Could you
up.
just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run?
Yeah. So, I hope the first thing people know about me is I'm a believing Christian woman, but I've been married for 43 years to an amazing man, Clint, and he's an ER physician in the area. I have 5 children. 3 were adopted out of foster care, and I have 9 grandkids. And I decided to
Wow.
run. Yeah. and I hope for a lot more. So, I decided to run mainly because I was up at the Capitol kind of championing things. We got this super majority up there, and I kept seeing over and over us losing as Republicans, the things that we really believe in. And I couldn't understand why we kept losing. And I thought we are electing people that maybe don't really solidly stand as the Republican platform puts it out. And I
Right.
just couldn't take any more losses in a supermajority state. And I thought I can be a solution to that. And I can add to those conservative numbers. And so that's kind of what got me into this.
So a lot of people, if they're like me, and I wasn't really in tune with even the city or state politics. Everybody pays attention to the national politics, but I think people are waking up and realizing that it's the city and the state that affects you the most. And so if you don't put good people into those positions, you suffer the consequences. So
Right.
I know you've been in politics in the local area. So District 163, that actually covers what area? So our listeners might know where that
Okay,
covers.
so we did have redistricting last year, and so it's now Carthage, most of Carthage, and then I go into Joplin, down the mall area by the college, all the way down Range Line to 32nd Street. I have a little sliver on the west side of Range Line on around 4th Street, but for the most part, it's the Duquesne, Dunwich area, and so yeah, and you can go and look at the map, but it's Carthage and Joplin this time. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, that helps me out because I'm in for the Senate district, District 32, and so I'm always looking to see, well, where exactly who's my representative and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So I think a lot of
and
people with that redistricting has kind of confused them a little bit.
it has, because I think Cody Smith, who has the seat now, had a little bit of Webb City, and I have none of Webb City now. And so I think Zorro might be the furthest
Hmm.
north in the Joplin area, and then it goes over to Carthage. So
Something new besides redistricting, we just did the caucus, Missouri caucus for the election. How was
yes,
that? I know you went and you
yes.
attended. Where did you go, and what did you see, and what were the feedback that you're getting from it?
Well, yeah, evidently we've had a caucus every year, but it's not the presidential binding, so we still, as we the people, get to go to the ballots, and we voted for who we thought, but
Right.
those weren't always binding. So those delegates didn't have to stick with who we necessarily picked. And so we've had this caucus, and for somebody that's as involved as me to go, what's a caucus? It was very interesting. So I went to a lot of
Right.
training, and I found out that I'm kind of torn on it. It really is a way to take the burden off the state. Republicans are a private entity. Democrats are a private entity. So it really does take the burden of $10 million of fees off the state. But it really disenfranchises some people too. My husband worked a 24-hour shift. He couldn't show up. Active military, they can't vote. People that are bedridden that can maybe
Right.
had other ways to vote. Um, but let's pass that. So we did have a caucus. The legislator didn't get it
Right.
out. So we had this caucus this year, and I felt like it really went smooth. I felt like people were heard. It was overwhelmingly in Jasper County, 95 point something percent Trump. Around the state, all 114 counties for the most part were over 90% Trump. Some of
Right.
the other candidates were a little frustrated. But I think it went smoothly. I don't know. I'm still torn. Do I want to go back to this? Do I want to put the legislators? Am I going to be one of those that really fights that we put this back onto the ballot or whatever? But I'm going to do some more research on it. But I think it went really well. I think people left feeling heard, and I hope Jasper County left with a sense of respect for everyone. Trump supporters can get really rowdy, and But we kind of sometimes get lumped into one thing. And I think I'm a reasonable Trump supporter. So I hope people that were frustrated maybe come and ask us. But I think it
Right.
went well, Donnie. Yeah.
Oh, good. So who put that on? That was Newton County, right? That you went to?
So every county, every 114 counties across the entire state had to
Right.
have a caucus. And so
Right.
Jasper County put on theirs, Newton County put on theirs, the central committees put those on. And
Were you
so
Jasper or Newton County? I'm
Jasper,
sorry.
yeah, Jasper
Okay,
County.
Jasper. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So we put ours on. We really worked hard to make sure that people felt like they were being heard. We had a big turnout, 100 or 442. We were really excited.
Right.
Maybe next year it'll be 2,000. I don't know, but finding a location for that. So we put those on our central committees. One of the things that was said, we had all these people going, "What's going on? What's going on?" And a man named John Putman stood up and he said, "Where are you the rest of the year? Come be a part of our central committee." More than half of our seats are empty on central committee. So I hope people plug into these and don't be those armchair people anymore. Get plugged in.
I tell you, that's why I actually started this podcast, because it was, I've been living overseas for about the last 5 years, the majority of the time. And I came back and I saw some dysfunction, even at the local level.
Yes.
I've seen where people are frustrated with local, state, and national politics, and they're feeling a little disfranchised. So I thought, I've got to do better. I've got to get in and understand how the local politics operates, how the state politic operate. We're the ones who are electing them. We're the ones that are writing the checks and taxes. So it's really our job to provide the oversight and let our elected officials know, our representatives know when they're doing a good job and when they're not. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. And I'm so happy you took the time to be with us today. I know you're running, and the election date is August 2nd or 6th. 8th.
Well, I say 8th.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's the second Tuesday or the first Tuesday of the month. So yeah, it's August. And I came out really early.
Okay.
I just had, I have a message, and win or lose, I trust God in this ultimately, but win or lose, I have a message. Wake up, conservatives. Wake up, Christians.
Right.
You've been asleep.
If you don't wake up, things are going to continue on the trajectory that they are. And I think we can all see with the, on the national level, the crime that's coming across our border, the fentanyl. I just read an article this morning that there's a new drug that's 6 times more deadly than fentanyl that's out there.
Wow.
And so even at a state and city level, we go through our cities and we see people roaming our streets that are addicted to drugs, that have a mental illness. And a lot of times that's from the drugs. They become mentally ill. Right. And, so that's really what got me involved. I came home and I wanted to I homeschool my kids, which we're going to get into education because I know that's a passion of yours. Right. So I've homeschooled my kids for the last 5 years, and I wanted to go to the park, and I wanted to do a lesson at the gazebo, and I wanted to go play basketball because Cunningham Park has. So I went there. It was occupied by multiple people sleeping in sleeping bags on top the picnic tables in the gazebo. There's no way you could get in there. And there was dogs tied to the poles. It was just not welcoming for a family or children. And you get close, that you kind of got that glare of like, don't come in here type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go over to the next park over. I'll go to Ewart Park because it has a basketball goal with it. And I got there. It was worse. There's like 16 to 16 at 3 or 4 dogs now tied to the poles, people in sleep clothes everywhere, paraphernalia. So that's what really got me to pause and reflect and said, you know what? If I don't get involved and the people don't get involved, this is going to continue to go, and we're going to look like Oregon. We're going to look like Los Angeles. We're going to have camps everywhere, so we've got to do a better job at the local level as a community to work together. I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and I want to help those people. If they're mentally ill, I want to get them help. If they're drug addicted, let's get them into rehab, and because it only took maybe one bad decision to get addicted to drugs. And it was a great person. He's still a great person, but that drugs it's tore him up. It's torn him apart, So
that's part of the problem too, is that somebody said one time, we've become poverty managers. We've become homeless managers. We're not looking for solutions anymore. We're just managing them. We're just giving them the tools to continually live in poverty. And we're doing that under the Republican banner. And that's not what we stand for. We don't believe
Right.
that. And that
Right.
doesn't mean we don't help them as a Christian. But what is the role of the government? Is it just to manage this? No, that's not our role. It's
Right.
my duty as a Christian to seek the welfare of the city that I've been planted in. But it's not the
Right.
government's to keep
No.
facilitating that.
We've got lots of NGO nonprofit facilities, and I'm torn. I love all the because most everybody that operates those or works in those are volunteers. They have a great heart. They have a compassion that is just so much that's so needed in our communities. But at what point do we look at things and say this is becoming a business model? Because Joplin is a medical hub for physical and mental issues.
It is.
So a lot of people come from all over the state to seek help in our community. And then what happens when they get released? Sometimes they just get released out in the community. I know we're changing the topic on you a little bit, but this is my passion. But right before we get into your passions, education.
No, it is mine too, because that's one of the things that I'm running on. My husband's
Right.
an ER physician, so people come into
Right.
the ER. Now, he's up at Barton County, Lamar, but if he has to
Right.
transfer a patient to one of the larger hospitals, Mercy or Freeman,
Right.
they don't get an ambulance ride back to Lamar. Now
Yeah.
we've got them here. Where do they go from there? He's frustrated. How do I help this person? There's not enough beds. Now I'm looking at Springfield. And so that is a passion of mine too. This epidemic, we just keep peeling back the layers. And Donnie, you're so right. So no, it's not that education, because I saw this in the schools. We were going and out of generosity, we were packing backpacks for these kids because we don't want them to go home hungry on the weekends. And we were facilitating. Now these kids are coming to me and going, I don't like that pudding cup. I want yogurt. I mean, we've just
Right.
And so these children have grown up in this system, and now they're hooked on drugs for, whatever reason. And so we moved from the big city of Kansas City in 2000, and it was a culture shock to move down here. I was really surprised at the drug use that seemed out of control in 2000. And here we are 24 years later. So yeah, that's another passion.
Yeah,
and started on that.
You're absolutely right, because it all boils down to proactive policing and proactive community activism versus reactive. We all want to sit back and complain and be reactive. Let's give them $5 at the stop. But we've had 3 people killed in Joplin, pedestrians, from motor accidents, and then we have all these people that are panhandling on the internet. It's just not safe, especially if you're addicted and you might be on something at the time or have a mental illness. So we got to do better. Anyway, let's change the subject and let's go and talk about education.
Yes.
I've been hearing so much stuff and I'm so confused about the education. I've been watching podcasts and I've been listening to the live, at the Capitol about the debates and everything on the floor. So this issue of school choice, can you dumb it down for me so I can understand it a little bit?
Well, and I'm a perpetual learner, and so I'm always learning too. First of all, parents, be involved in your kids' education. Know what you're doing. Now, we did private school, homeschool, public school. We did all the gamut. My family comes from a long line of public school educators. So we had my son in a public school setting. I really wanted it to work. And in that setting, as I would go in and volunteer, I began to see how crippled our public schools were. Now, they're also being fed, from really woke propaganda, left radical. They're really being fed from that too, even in the guise of social emotional learning. That sounds so nice. We want to deal with the social emotional learning. And we don't realize that a lot of these principles come out of deep-rooted Marxist ideology. So anyway, so I got involved with this because I saw in Texas and in Florida and in Colorado a way to educate free, public school free children in charter schools. So conservative parents like me, a parent that loves the classical model, we could bring this in and we could offer this educational model. So I got really plugged into charter schools. Now, in Missouri, charter schools are only allowed in St. Louis and Kansas City. So they're going to reflect St. Louis and Kansas City. They're going to be models that I wouldn't personally probably send my children to as an ideology aspect. But if I
Right.
really believe in freedom for these parents and I really want to see kids educated well, then I want to see them educated the way their parents see fit. Some parents are going to
Right.
choose really poorly. Some parents aren't going to be wise and go, oh, I don't want to do that. The government's kind of feeding. But you don't realize the public schools are already doing that. From 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, they're wards of the state unless we get that changed. And so anyway, back to this school choice thing. So I think there's this narrative that it's the government trying to take over. But what I'm saying is the first line of freedom and liberty is that parents choose what's best for their child, whether it's homeschooled, private school. What if we can't afford a private school? And most of us can't. Even in my position, it was hard to put, 4 kids into a private school. And some of the
All
private
right.
schools couldn't take my special needs children. And so they just didn't have the facility to do that. So I want parents to be wise. I want teachers, public school teachers, to be untethered from the things that are burdening them that have nothing to do with them being great teachers. And we've let DESE grow out of control. Over 2,000 employees in DESE. Florida, less than 200 employees in their education. We got a problem in Missouri.
You know, I didn't realize how big a problem we were, and I didn't realize how devious the political system is at the Capitol Hill. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't know if you've ever watched the show Braveheart, and you have Robert the Bruce, and his father was the plotting evil guy who plotted the political strategy, and he
Yeah.
stabbed everybody in the back to get to the top. And what I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding is sometimes in the Capitol, you see these guys that keep rising year after year to a newer position. They're taking money from big lobbyist groups that are, and a lot of them are under the Republican umbrella of wanting to come in and get more control to the government, less control to the parents.
Right.
So
And so that's
it,
one of the things that I want to make sure that we are very wise. Now there has to be some accountability if you're going to use these tax dollars, but they're not the government's dollars. They're our children's dollars. They're allocated to our children. So how do we do that really wisely? So I make sure that I align up with conservative people. Andrew Koenig's a great example. I've testified on some charter school bills for Bill Eigel. I mean, that they don't want the government any more involved than they have to.
right.
And sometimes things get slipped in there because what I've seen is that we don't have Republicans that are really following what they need to. And so they try to maybe appease their Republican colleague. It's interesting to me that in Kansas City, where we have some really successful charter schools, that the Democrats won't even come visit their charter school with me to look at the great work that are kind of lining up with their ideology. They ought to be kind of happy. And so
Yeah.
so I think that I'm for educational freedom. I want to free up our nation to see our kids educated. We're at where we're at because of the public schools that have just slowly let kind and good things get into the system. We don't know what to do anymore.
Well, I think it's because Americans are by nature trusting and good
They
people, and
are.
they're saying, okay, let's give to our school system. Let's make sure that our local people teach our children the way we want them to be taught, and we just have that expectation that they're going to do that. But what we
Yeah.
don't realize is all these policies that come down from the federal government, the critical race theory, the DEI, all these different gamuts of things. Well, the schools can't even get the funding unless they abide by these rules.
Right.
So now these teachers and educators are torn between they want to do the right thing, but they're almost hamstring, or their school is actually out of funding, and
And
they,
I look at
you know,
these teachers that are so discouraged. I mean, they just
yeah,
want to go teach,
yeah,
and then on the other problem, this cultural problem that you and I've been talking about, these parents don't have anything to do with their kids' education. They want to send them off to public school, but boy, their kids poop gold and their teacher better not make them mad. And we hear these situations where third and fourth graders have beat up their teachers.
yeah.
And in the teacher's response to not re-overreact. And so now these little kids look and they go, oh, my teacher didn't re-overreact that a chair was just thrown across the classroom. So it must be normal behavior to throw a chair across the classroom. We have a
Yeah.
cultural issue here. And so
Yeah.
I want teachers to know I'm on your side. The public education system needs to work in America, but it's not, and it's broken.
Yeah.
And where
I
do we
think,
hurt?
yeah.
Where do we get
Go
them?
ahead.
Taking their funding away, saying if you're not going to
Yeah.
teach our kids, and we don't take their funding away because of just arbitrary things that somebody higher up in the nations decided is the right thing to do. Like we take their funding away because they're not teaching social emotional learning. I
Right.
just, it is such a deeper issue, and I don't think I can solve it. I don't think I have all the answers, but I can promise you this: I'm a great learner and I'm a great listener.
And that's what's really needed. I mean, I've been following the initiative petition reform process that's been going through the Senate. And you have a good bill, and that's the number one issue that the Republicans have ran on for almost 5 years, maybe longer.
Right.
That's the one thing that they wanted to pass. And then what I'm finding out is there's all these traps that are set in from our own Republican leadership. As a bill gets introduced, they've already made these side deals from special interest groups that have the money that's paying the campaign funding and they want to be governor, or they want to be secretary of state, or they want to be this or that. And then what they do is they poison that bill. So the people who are all for it, they put two things in there that they know they're not going to be able to accept. And therefore,
Right.
and then they blame them for not voting for it. And a lot of that's
Yeah.
happening in the education process, the education
Exactly.
bill. And so they
Exactly.
almost turn Republicans against each other so then they can not get
Right.
anything done.
Right.
That's been the game. And it's our
Yeah.
conservative leadership that's been doing it.
Right. And I've never, wavered on my support of school choice. I'm starting to not almost like that word because it's been so
Right.
hijacked, but I am for the child and educational freedom. And our constitutional thing is that we educate children. And so,
Right.
you mentioned the initiative petition. Don't even get me on another rabbit trail of something. 6 years ago, 7 years, I went around on my own dime around the whole 7th and 8th district saying clean Missouri is dangerous. Clean Missouri is dangerous. Don't vote for it. Don't vote for it. It passes. Then I go around the 7th and 8th district championing the fix against clean Missouri. I want our Constitution to have a high threshold, but when I learned that it can't pass, then this concurrent majority thing came. And I'm like, this is brilliant. This protects our Constitution. And people are like fighting against it. And now you don't even know where the bill is. You're like, I don't even know
Right.
because I can't every hour of the minute of the day know what's going on in the back room of the Senate or the House. And so we knew 5 years ago, this was a precursor to get abortion codified in our Constitution. We
Right.
knew it. And so stop the games. And we should have had this 5 years ago. So now we're, doing the Hail Mary and we're like, we don't know what to do.
Absolutely. Well, they know what to do. It's just,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
these special interest groups have really got into the pockets of so many people, both Democrat, Republican. I mean, all the way through our system of government, that
Right.
it's easier for them to just sit on a bill and poison it, and then they can't get blamed for not passing it.
Right. Last year,
So,
the House bill that
any,
went through, the House bill that went through was raising the threshold. And we just seen that it was failing in other states. We knew that was the bad bill.
right.
So even when the House says, well, we passed it, but the Senate didn't do it. It's like, but you gave us a bill that wasn't going to win in the ballots.
And they know it. It's a game. It's all a
Yeah.
game. So, we've talked about education, a little
Yeah.
bit about initiative petition reform. I always ask all leaders, because you're getting ready to be a leader, and you have been throughout your career. I understand you've been in politics and you've been in the trenches on the ground, so it gives you a great perspective. But I always like to ask questions about people's decision making.
Okay.
In the military, we go through, months of training on decision, like a decision process from the very beginning, from analyzing weighted variables. It's a very methodical process. So a lot of times when I have to make a decision on something, I ask the city council members too. I said, so if something comes across your desk that you have to vote for, do you ever look at it and have a set of values or variables? Like, is it going to make the government less free, or is it going to make the people less free or more free? Is it going to grow the government more, or is it going to not grow the government more? Because the government always wants to grow, and it's kind of our job to prevent it from growing. Is it going to be more taxes, or is it going to be less taxes? And I think if we because decisions are hard, because the way these bills come across, they're poisoned, they're polluted, and sometimes it's one thing that they make you vote. The 9 sound good, but the 1 can really make a big impact negatively on your district. And now you're representing that district, so you got to do what's best for them, not necessarily everybody else. But so I'm going through all that to say, how do you see yourself in making those decisions? I mean, do you take those into account?
Yes,
those
big
type
time.
of
And
things?
that's what I hope that my votes will reflect. Was it Thomas Jefferson said that I prefer freedom over peaceful slavery? And so I think a lot of bills have some peaceful slavery over it. But first of all, is it constitutionally, allowed? Second of all, does it follow the Republican platform? And third, have I prayed over it?
Right.
Complex issues, those bills, they're full of stuff. And they're, like you said, there might be one line in it that's like, I love this bill, but you got to take that out. And so those relationships that we develop up there, and I think relationships are so important. I got to stop, being the enemy of all my colleagues. I got to have a relationship with them so that I can go to them and say, I love this. These 9 things are amazing, but you got to take this line out because it doesn't follow the Constitution. It doesn't follow our platform, which is limiting our taxes, shrinking our government. I would love to go up there and have everything I do be shrinking the state government. That would be my goal.
I've been in government almost my entire life, and government never runs anything effectively, especially at the Department of State level.
Exactly. So we need to stop. And I think that Republicans, some of the people up there that I know, they're great people, and they want to do really kind and gracious and amazing things. The PMPD is one of those examples. And I'm like, that I get the heartstrings of the senator that pushed that through. I got it, but it wasn't the role of the government. And it grew the government in a way that I think was a little dangerous. In 1980, we were cheering as conservative Christians the Marriage Act. We just gave the government the ability to define marriage, to define gender, to define everything. We've got to stop wanting peaceful slavery.
I agree. I know you're busy. I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just like to come to a conclusion. And if there's if like on day 1, when you get elected, is there something that is near and dear to your heart that you're going to prioritize or go after immediately when you get into your representative seat?
Well, because I have such faith in them this year that they're going to get a lot done. I'm going to go and I'm going to go, wow, there's nothing left to do. But, I do really start addressing those things with the mental illness crisis. I really do want to see educate our children. And so those are the things I'm going to really work on. There's something else that we don't talk a lot about, and it gets really in the weeds, so I won't go there. But the court plan, the way the judges, the Supreme Court judges in Missouri are picked is detrimental to what we do. So that's kind of one of those side issues that a lot of people don't know about, but the Missouri court plan, I think, is really dangerous. And so those are some things. But I hope my first year I go up there and I really start building those relationships without compromising who I am. And I've been too loud for about the last 8 years. So I can't go in there and be any different than who I am.
That's what we want. We want you to be who you are. You love God, you love our children, you love our community. You got my vote. I'm all behind you. And I'm so happy. And maybe over the coming months, we can get you back on. Maybe as some issues come up, we can kind of understand your decision-making behind those.
Yes.
How can people follow you on social media so we can get them connected with you?
Okay, so my name is Cathy Jo Loy, but it's Cathy Jo with a C, the number 4, mo163.com. So Cathy Jo for mo163.com. And then I have a Facebook page. I'm getting more active on social media. Although Facebook is shut down today on Super Tuesday, I've got my tinfoil hat on. I'm a little,
I sent out a text. I said, cyber attack ? On Super Tuesday. Come on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I can't help myself. So so go to Cathy Jo for mo163.com. Unfortunately, elections take donations, and so I've really got to get the people that believe those $5 and $10 donations because they want to see me in that that seat. So that would be helpful.
You know, Cathy, Jo, that's a great point because, you know, when you look at people's, everybody can get online and see who's donating to whose campaign,
Right.
right? And you look
Right.
at some of them and you can see these big companies or PACs are donating into certain people's campaigns. But what we like to see is when you have a $5 donation, a $20 donation, a $100 donation, that means you're grassroots. That means the people are supporting you. And a lot
Right.
of times the people, they just don't know how. They don't know how to support you.
Yeah,
So on your website, you have, I'm sure you have like a donations tab.
I
They can
do.
get right on
Yeah.
there,
Yes. And
donate.
they
And I
donate.
don't think people realize how expensive it is to run a campaign just to
It is.
get the signs ordered and get them out in the yard.
Yeah, they're
The
telling me
people you have to,
$30,000, and I'm like, what? So
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
so those and you're right. Those grassroots donations, people think I can't give more than $5. I can't do 25. They don't understand that those are important.
that
And
helps.
I'm going to
It
steward
helps.
those well. I'm going to steward every dime I'm given so that I can give back to the community that has
Yeah,
trusted me to represent.
we know you will. Well, Cathy, Jo, I know you're busy today, so
Thank you, Jeff
unless you
City.
have anything,
No, that's
that's right. So we'll end it right here, and maybe we can get you on here maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll get an update.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Donnie, for the
Okay.
opportunity.
Have a great day, Cathy. Bye bye.
Bye bye.